welcome back to the David67 Celtic News YouTube channel. This being the second video of today, Friday, with the first one just uploaded now, which is a review of the transfer window, a wee look at the future, and also a preview of tomorrow's game against Aberdeen. This video was requested by one of the viewer subscribers, and was also a video I was planning to do within the next week or so once the transfer window had quietened down. And it's an update on the 13 players currently out on loan from Celtic to leagues all around the world. As Mikey Johnston only went to West Brom yesterday, there's nothing to update with him. And once Marco Tilio finishes off on Asian Cup duty for Australia, currently in Qatar, he'll be then going back to play for Melbourne on loan until the end of the Australian season, which also ends in May, around the same time as the Scottish season ends. So obviously nothing to update on Marco Tilio yet either, but I will come back at the end of this season with a wee update on all our players who've come back from loan spells. Of all the players who are currently out on loan, the one who has been most successful is undoubtedly Bosen Law. Bosen Law went down to Fleetwood, at which point they were being managed by our ex-player Scott Brown. Bosen Law has been a key player for Fleetwood, and you may have seen recently in the press his current manager, Charlie Adam, ex-Rangers, Liverpool and Blackpool player. He has been very, very praiseworthy of Lawal, saying that he's showing good ability, dribbling, passing, good touch on the ball, that he's undoubtedly English Championship quality, which is a league above the one he's playing at the moment. And he thinks that Bosen Law, when he comes back from loan in May to Celtic, will be a much improved player, and a player most likely ready for first team squad action, which is very encouraging. And of course, that's exactly what these loan spells are ideal for young players who are 18, 19, 20, etc. To give them match experience, much as the case was with Callum McGregor on his year-long loan at Notts County. When he came back from there, he was almost straight away into the Celtic first-team squad and has been a regular ever since. And certainly the last 5, 6, 7 years has been very much one of Celtic's key star players. I'm not saying that Bosen Law is going to be that level of player, but I think certainly the indications are he's going to be a good player, first team ready and squad ready when he comes back. Just a wee update on terms of his stats. He's had 29 appearances for Fleetwood with 1 goal. He's played centre back, which is his usual primary position. He's also played right back, left back, and has played defensive midfield, and has also played conventional central midfield, and so clearly is learning at Fleetwood a lot of the skills and versatility that will make him a very good player for the Celtic squad in the long term. He's also had 5 Republic of Ireland under-21 caps over the same loan period, and in a couple of those games was said to be one of Ireland's star players for those games. Another player that went down to Fleetwood at the same time as Bosen Law was Adam Montgomery. He has had a much sadder time at Fleetwood. He struggled to get into the team due to injury, and in his spell at Fleetwood had only 4 starts and 2 games as a sub. The feedback from the Fleetwood fan forums were that they thought that Montgomery was a decent player, but they felt that he was never quite match ready and match fit, and struggling to fit into the team. And so not surprisingly, Celtic chose to recall him from loan at the end of 2023, and almost immediately was then loaned out to Motherwell. He played one game for Motherwell so far with good feedback. However, a few days later in training has suffered a severe hamstring injury that's going to be keeping him out of football for 2 to 3 months. So he's now back at Celtic for physio and rehab, and with the possibility that he may go back to Motherwell for the last month of the season, depending on fitness and other circumstances. We also have had another couple of players going off on loan to English clubs. Liam Shaw, who's currently at Wigan. Shaw is kind of a forgotten man at Celtic, having been one of Ange Postecoglou's early signings. He's had very few minutes playing for Celtic and has most of the time been off on loan. He has actually had a good spell at Wigan with 23 games so far this season, 14 starts, 9 as a sub, playing both defensive midfield and central midfield role. And the feedback from the Wigan fan sites has been that he's actually been one of their better players. A couple of times they felt he actually was Wigan's best player of the day. And overall, the Wigan fans are very happy with how he's been for them this season. Personally, I think when Shaw comes back from this loan spell, that his Celtic career will be ended one way or the other, either being released with his contract paid off, or probably more likely being sold at a low price to an English Championship or First Division side, or a similar level of team in Scotland. Either way, I can't see Shaw really having a first team future at Celtic. Another player Celtic have on loan in England is, of course, Sead Haksabanovic at Stoke. He took a wee bit of time to get into Stoke's team, but has since played 15 games with 9 starts and 6 as a sub, with 1 goal and 2 assists. The feedback from the Stoke fan forums has been that they've been very impressed with Haksabanovic's ability to take on a player and beat them with either pace or skill. They've enjoyed his directness and ability to get the ball forward and push the team forward. And in several of the matches, Haksabanovic has been the man of the match for amongst the Stoke fans. And so it is encouraging to seeing Haksabanovic playing well for Stoke. Whether when he comes back to Celtic in May, June, he'll have a long-term future at Celtic, I don't think he will do, mostly because he doesn't seem to be getting on at all well with Brendan Rodgers. Rodgers doesn't seem to rate him as a player, and I think Haksabanovic does have a wee bit of a reputation for being quite an abrasive, temperamental player, which I think was an issue at previous clubs that Haksabanovic has played at, and so I can easily see him being sold to Stoke or a similar team, or being sold on to a team in Central Europe to further his career, and I doubt that he has a long-term future at Celtic. I actually thought Haksabanovic was a very gifted player, never quite reached the levels that we hoped for at Celtic, but I think a player, if we did persist with him, would actually turn into be a good level of player, although admittedly we do actually have quite a lot of players who play his position, and so I doubt he has a future at Celtic. Moving on to our 2 players who were loaned off to our partner club in Austria, which is FC Admira Wacker. The 2 players who went over there were Toby Oluyemu, the goalkeeper, and Matthew Anderson, the left-sided defender. Oluyemu's had a very disappointing time in Austria. He spent the whole season so far injured due to a knee problem, and so has seen no game time in Austria. He has remained over there, and so the intention being he will see game time, fitness permitting, in the second half of the season. Matthew Anderson's had a better time over in Austria with 8 starts and 1 sub appearance and 3 assists. He's been playing both left back and left sided midfield, and the feedback I was able to glean from local sources was that the club are happy with him, the coaching staff are happy with him, they think he's playing well, he's showing a lot of good skills and abilities. Haven't been able to access any form of fan site from FC Admira Wacker, but it does appear encouraging that Anderson is doing well over there, and I can easily see him coming back to Celtic, going out on loan for another season to possibly an English First Division or Championship club or a team of a similar level in Scotland, and fully gaining experience and match fitness, and coming back as a player who has the potential to contribute to Celtic in the longer term. Another player who has had a better time is Ben McPherson, who was loaned to Queen's Park and will be playing with Queen's Park to the end of the season. He's had 14 starts and 6 sub appearances for Queen's Park in the Scottish Championship. He's played at right back, right sided midfield, right wing back, and at times right winger. The feedback from the fan forums at Queen's Park is that his defensive abilities are rather unreliable and dodgy, that he's been at blame for a few of the goals that Queen's Park have been leaking this season, and they actually feel he does far better when he's playing right midfield or a right wing back type role rather than playing conventional right back. So it may well be that Celtic, when they take him back off loan, either look to further that with a further spell away on loan, seeing if he matures into a more capable right back, or whether he's better playing the right sided midfield or right wing back type role. And so I can easily see him coming back to Celtic and then back out on loan to Queen's Park or a similar team for a further season, and then being reassessed in the 25-26 season, which seems an awful long way away. But again, McPherson making, it would appear, definite progress and playing capably at Scottish Championship level. Another player at Queen's Park is our B team captain, Mackenzie Carse, a player that has the potential to be a good, if not great, Celtic player in the long term. Mackenzie Carse only started his loan spell at Queen's Park a couple of weeks ago. He's had 1 sub appearance which went well, but obviously too early in his loan spell to know how he's going to do. However, having watched him in B team matches and Scottish representative matches, Carse looks a very impressive player, very good leadership and captain skills, which I think is important. He's played well in the UEFA Champions League youth competition and was more than capable playing against players from Lazio, Atletico Madrid and Feyenoord, and captained and played well for Celtic in that role. And so I can easily see him probably having another spell out on loan next season for a year and coming back then as ready for first team squad availability, and if all goes well, developing into a good, if not great, Celtic player in the long term, as I and a lot of people have been very impressed with his ability, particularly when he stepped up to international duty and the UEFA Youth League matches. Another player currently on loan in the Scottish Championship is Ben Summers, primarily a midfielder. he's had 12 games for Dunfermline, 2 goals and 2 assists. He also has had a lot of problems with injuries, and so has missed around about half of the season so far with Dunfermline, which has caused him to have a bit of difficulty establishing himself in the side. But the 2 performances in which he scored were apparently of high quality, and again, the fan forums at Dunfermline are very happy with his progress, and I can easily see him being a player similar to Carse and McPherson, where maybe another year out on loan at a similar level, and he comes back ready to be considered for Celtic's first team squad. The final 2 players out on loan are interesting players, and it's not very clear in the long run where they're going to fit in terms of Celtic future. The first of which is our South Korean midfielder Kwon, who played a half of football in a friendly match and then was never seen again in first team action, and apart from being on the bench a few times later in the season, but did not see any first team action for Celtic. He has been loaned to St Mirren, and he actually has had very positive feedback from his St Mirren manager and also the fans for how well he performed in both matches, one in the Cup and the other against Rangers. And also there's been very positive feedback from his teammates as to what a good team player he is, how he's fitted in very well to the St Mirren team. And all this is a wee bit surprising given how incredibly negative Brendan Rodgers was about Kwon's ability when he was talking about Kwon in press briefings, where he simply did not rate Kwon at all. It is interesting to see how he's doing at St Mirren, and obviously he's had 2 games, and so one swallow doesn't make a summer, but if he continues playing as well as he is for St Mirren, it would be an interesting to see how he is when he comes back to Celtic, whether Celtic looked to loan him out again to St Mirren or someone similar for a further season, then reassess from there, or whether to see how he does through pre-season in friendly matches and in squad sessions, and then reassess from there. His track record from his time in South Korea was actually good, although he was at a slightly lower level than Oh and Yang when he came over. And so it will be interesting to see how he is at the end of this season and going through the summer. The other player which I find interesting is Johnny Kenny, another player who came from Irish football with a good reputation, kind of got lost in Celtic's system, got sent out on loan to Shamrock Rovers back in the Irish League, and was the Shamrock Rovers Player of the Year, and so came back from that loan spell in November, was unused at Celtic through December, and then is going back out to Shamrock Rovers now on a further loan spell for the Irish season, which starts in February, if I'm correct, and will run through to October, November again. When Kenny was over in Ireland for his first loan spell, 37 games, 6 goals and 4 assists, and he had 4 games playing in European competition, in UEFA competition qualifiers, and as I said, was the Shamrock Rovers Player of the Year, and so clearly had a very successful spell in Ireland, and has also been playing for the Irish under-21 side, again with good success. It's hard to see him fighting his way into Celtic's first team squad. And so I suspect when he comes back this time from his loan at the end of 2024, probably Celtic will look to loan him out again to a Scottish or English club to the end of the season, or may look to see whether Shamrock Rovers or a similar club in Ireland wants to buy him permanently. That brings us to the end of all our loan players out currently. It does appear, as I say, some have had a good time and are making very good progress. A couple have had loan spells severely troubled by injury. And there are quite a few players, I think, in the long term aren't going to have a future at Celtic, but it is very hopeful that we might well have one or two gems coming through into Celtic's first team squad in a year or two's time out of the young players currently transitioning from the under 18 and B team towards first team squad ready. So, as I said at the start, I'll plan to do a further review of the loan players at the end of this current season, by which time we might well have a bit more knowledge as to where the various players are going in terms of their careers and Celtic futures. Hopefully you've enjoyed the video. If you have enjoyed the video, click that wee like button. If you've enjoyed this sort of video and have had a look at the other videos and content on the channel, do feel free to click that subscribe button. And as always, comments in the comment section, always greatly appreciated, and I'll get back to you one way or the other as quick as I can. So for this second video of the day, thanks for listening, thanks for watching, goodbye, and hail, hail.